want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Mad Men of Masculinity. Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Good day, Mad Men Mafia.
I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
I sent you a picture this morning, man. I was like, I was up in the gym getting it on, man.
I saw that. You look rough. I didn't mean that.
I was feeling rough, man. But I was getting it in, though, man.
Yeah, I saw. You look all sweaty and hot. I mean, what's going on with that?
Well, that's what she said. Nah, it's all good, man. Just trying to get it in, man.
Nice. So, hey, man, we got a guest today. This is somebody for the first time in a while that we actually didn't know before we got him on the show. So this would be cool. But let me ask you something. Coming from D.C., being a city boy, you ever been hunting?
Man, you know the answer to that question, man. No, I ain't been hunting, man.
Why you been hunting?
Man, come on, man. Don't nobody in D.C. go hunting unless never mind. But no, man, that wasn't really a thing when I was growing up, man. I know zero about hunting. I've been fishing a few times, but otherwise, man, nah, I don't know. I know zero about going hunting.
Well, I don't hunt. I grew up in the South. I grew up in a military family, so there was lots of hunting around, but I never did go hunting. So it's one of those things like part of me wishes I had, because I think it's a skill. Like, I mean, what if Y2K did happen and everything went black and we didn't have supermarkets and refrigeration and stuff? Like, what will we do? How will we survive? What will we do?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would find a way, I think, but it's good to have, it's good to have the skills. It's good to have the info, man. I'm excited about this conversation because like I said, man, I'm a blank slate. I'm ready to be absorbed. I'm a dry sponge, man. Ready to soak it up.
Well, let's without further ado or whatever ado you want to have, let's bring Dan in, Mr. Dan Adler. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Kirk. Hey, Madman family.
What's happening, my man?
How are you guys? Good to see you.
Doing
Dan
well.
Adler. Hey, man, let me just say right out of the gate, man. I dig your name, man. You got a cool hunting man's name, man. Dan Adler. I like that, man.
I appreciate that. My alter ego is Diamond Dan. I don't know which one you like better, but whatever you like, I like. How about that?
That sounds like a stage name to me, man. That sounds like a stage name, man. You've been trying to earn your way through college or something, or what, man?
Pay back all those loans. Damn right, yes, sir.
Nice. This is awesome, man. So, Dan, man, I am a blank slate, man. I know absolutely zero about going hunting. I mean, first of all, man, I mean, where you from, man? Where you live? Where you out of?
So I'm a born and raised Arizonan. Grew up in Phoenix all the way through high school. Then I went to college at the University of Arizona for 4 years. Go Cats. And then after 4 years at the U of A, I was commissioned a second lieutenant in the United States Air Force. Spent about 10 years on active duty. And the only time I didn't live in Arizona during my active duty military time, where I was stationed throughout the United States as well as abroad. And as my military career as an officer in the Air Force was winding down, I was really getting into entrepreneurship. And my biggest passion was hunting and becoming an entrepreneur. And I thought if I got out of the military, because initially I thought I'd always be a career guy. And when I started thinking about getting out of the military, I thought I would try the entrepreneur path. And I was really good at hunting terrorists and I enjoyed hunting big game. So I thought this might be a good avenue or good natural fit. It was kind of an ongoing joke with a lot of my family because the rap against being an outfitter out west is it's a nice part-time weekend activity, but how are you going to make it a career? And just under 20 years later, 19 and a half years later, we're the largest outfitter in North America. And you guys would appreciate this. I always say, underestimate me. That'll be fun. That's one of my favorite sayings. So we're really blessed. I've surrounded myself with a great team, and that's kind of the evolution of our company. So I'm an Arizona native back here in the Bradshaw Mountains in Prescott, Arizona is where I live now. And We've got a big game operation that encompasses 5 other states plus Sonora, Mexico. And to your point, Kirk, we welcome hunters of all ranks, from brand new to wounded veterans, first responders, women that have never hunted before, or experienced hunters, and youth hunters, bringing them up through the ranks from everything from I don't even know what a deer looks like all the way to the most experienced hunters who, when they come out hunting, they find the value in hiring a professional, just like any other suite of services you'd find in the marketplace for anything else. So that's kind of been my path.
That's awesome. Okay, I gotta check something though, because I was in the Air Force as well, but it sounds like we probably had different AFSCs, because I wasn't hunting terrorists and stuff. What'd you do?
I was a 21 Alpha 3, so that's an aircraft maintenance officer. I flew a little bit too, but mostly long enough to have a cup of coffee. So my claim to fame is as a 21 Alpha 3 aircraft maintenance officer. So that was on the F-15 C and D models. So the precursor to the Strike Eagles, which we ended up selling a lot of those as the F-22 came in. Got really cool stories about that, how we sold F-22s. And then A-10s, Warthogs, for those of you madmen that are familiar, the Warthog tank buster, probably the most iconic airplane of all time, especially if you ever served our country in the capacity of the United States Army or United States Marine. You know the Air Force A-10, close air support, close combat. And also the EC-130. So a lot of people know the C-130 Compass Call if you follow military aviation even a little bit. But this version of it, the EC, is electronic warfare. So jamming, miscommunications, all kinds of cool stories that madmen would appreciate. But that's what I did in those 10 years, and then some inactive reserve time. All said and done, I believe is right at the 17, 18 year mark. And it was a great time for the most part. And I miss a lot of it, but not all of it. And sure have loved the hunting side of my life for my business and the guides we've been able to bring in, 61 guides over the last 19 years, and the memories for our families. That's the really cool thing. When I did an interview with a bunch of my guides here recently, and I said, what's our job description? What do you guys all think we do? And people wrote down, oh, we're this in the elk outfitting world, and we're this in the deer outfitting world. And they wrote down all these things that directly related to the business. And at the end, I said, if you guys don't mind, I'd just like to share with you what I wrote down. What Diamond Outfitters does is we make dreams come true. That's it. That's our mantra. That's what we do. And there's a lot of different ways to do that within the Diamond family. So it's been a blessing.
That sounds
Dude,
awesome.
I'm shaking my head right now because I know, man, y'all about to go off on a tangent. Jason's about to he's about to chime in, and y'all about to start talking about stuff that don't have nothing to do with hunting. But go ahead, Jason. Go ahead, man. I know where
No,
you about to
no,
go.
no. I wasn't even gonna go there.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
I just
you
wanted to
are.
make sure I knew what he was gonna do. Yeah, okay, I wanted to, but I'm not gonna go there because we want to talk about
Yeah,
Diamond
you are.
Outfitters, because I mean,
No,
Air Force
so
career is one
Dad,
thing, but
Jason's he's about to tell you, he's about to share with you experience that that he's had and what he used to do in the Air Force.
okay, this coming from the Coast Guard guy.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Now it
no, we're not.
sounds like you guys' specialties or careers kind of overlap a little bit,
A little
or at
bit.
least the stuff
Yeah.
y'all are familiar with.
Yeah, no, I was weapons, so I worked on F-16s out of Spangdahlem in Germany, and then did Tunisia, Turkey, those kind of things. So I'm sure we ate some of the same sand. But no, I mean, as far as working with veterans, that's one of the things that we love to promote and do, being veterans and getting guys just out in nature. I mean, anyway, like being one of the reasons I moved back to the mountains was to be more in nature, to be more physically active, to do things I love. And so it was one of the things I think we are missing, especially, you live in the big cities, you live in the West, you live in the US, I mean, everything's concrete. You go to parks, which are surrounded by concrete, to get your nature fill, but you're not actually out in nature. You're not actually camping. You're not actually hunting or fishing or, trying to provide your sustenance from nature. And I think that's something that is so needed and missed. And so having you do things like that is just amazing. It's one of the reasons, like, as soon as I got the email, I'm like, yes, we're having him on. I want to talk about this, because having that experience, and like you said, making dreams come true, it's people don't even realize, they don't know what they don't know. So if they've never been hunting, they've never actually had to kill anything for food, they've never actually done these things. Like, what's that experience like? Can you give us a little insight into, like, what's the experience like for, say, like Kurt, first timer, never left the city, doesn't even know what deer look like, to go and hunting with you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I would say, as a baseline, we just want to have a conversation as we got to know each other a little bit. Hunting out west, there's a lot of different ways to do it. All of them require a hunting license. When I lived in Virginia, for example, just down the road there from Kirk. I know I could just go, and this was when I was at Langley Air Force Base 20 years ago. I could just go to a local sporting goods store and buy a deer hunting license at a sporting goods store and go hunting as long as I had a place to do it legally. Out west, it's a little bit different. My customers either have to win a tag in a drawing that we do paperwork for to put them in that drawing, or buy a hunting permit directly from a landowner. So the way some of these Western states work is these landowners have, let's say, cattle depredating or elk depredating on their cattle ranch, then they can get gifted permits from state game and fish agencies that they can in turn sell to someone like me to kind of offset the cost of that depredation that the elk are having on their cattle ranch. So once Kirk and I got to know each other as far as his hunting goals, we talk about any physical fitness restrictions or requirements, food allergies, just kind of relationship building conversations, because we really look at it as a soup to nuts. It's a total hunting vacation package. So don't just run out there, smash something, kill something, and it's like that. I mean, it's a lot more complicated and a lot more logistics, and it's really fun building that relationship so we know how to have a winning experience that Kirk's going to enjoy and be memorable. There's like 19 different Western big game animals somebody could hunt with me. And if it doesn't bore you later, I can try and name all 19 off of memory. But the bottom line is, as part of the building of the relationship, conversation with Kirk would be which one of these 19 maybe would be your top 3 or top 5. And then let's have a conversation about when are you available or not available? And do you want to try with the bow, or do you want to try your first big game hunt with the rifle? All these different options. And for guys like you, we have a little bit more leverage, a little bit more opportunity, because you guys are in good shape, willing to do the harder work, which means a better opportunity, most likely at an older, more mature animal, what the hunting world calls a trophy. So it's kind of a get to know your relationship. Let's figure out what it is you'd like. Let's figure out what would bring you the most joy. And then, we usually have as much as 6 months to a couple of years to actually set our dates and pick when we're both committed to going. And so once we have all that, we do the traditional hunting contract that goes out in an email. It has an equipment list. But what Mad Men will appreciate is it also has a mental and physical fitness checklist. Like, this is what you need to do to be prepared. I'm giving you 6 months to a year or two's notice. If you live in Washington, D.C., you're at sea level. And if you can hike 6 miles around the National Mall at 7,000 or 8,000 feet, that translates to about a third of that. So if you want to get some endurance up so that you can perform better at high elevation, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about nutrition. We'll talk about how to be mentally and physically prepared. And then, of course, there's practice with your firearm or bow. That is not something, generally speaking, that is reserved to just a couple days before your hunt. I'm going to go down to a gun shop. I'm going to buy a gun. I'm going to go to the range one time, shoot it 2 or 3 times, and then call Dan and say, hey, I'm ready to go. I was a ball boy for the Phoenix Suns. I don't want to say how many years ago, 35, 36 years ago. And I always talk about the legendary Jeff Hornacek. I don't know if that name means anything to you guys, but for all the other Phoenix Suns basketball players in 1988, 1989, when they shot free throws, I would stand anywhere around the basket I needed to get the ball and throw it back to him. But when Jeff Hornacek was shooting free throws, I just stood under the hoop because I knew he was going to make them all. I think, 30, 40 years later, he's still top 2 or 3 all-time free throw shooting. My point is that Kirk's not just going to pick up a basketball, in this case, a rifle, shoot 3 free throws, shoot 3 times at the range, and be ready to go hunting a big game animal, because we're in the business of killing, and we are conservationists first. So where hunters sometimes get a bad rap is they just think we're all these vicious, bloodthirsty killers, and we're not. We're actually conservationists first, and we find our role in conservation through ethical, legal harvest and feeding of our families, the avenue to express our love for conservation. So that's usually the first jump. It's not just somebody jumping saying, I want to go shoot something. It's like, hey, I want to learn more about this North American conservation model from Teddy Roosevelt. I want to be part of this natural spiritual equation and see what hunting is really all about. And hunting doesn't always mean killing. This is not a high fence canned hunt. This is the Western United States, big mountains, big canyons. You're going to earn it. You're going to be proud of yourself, and your family's going to be proud of your accomplishment. Yeah. And then you've got a couple of years worth of delicious venison in the freezer too.
Well, speaking of earning it, we got to take ourselves our first break for this show. And we are the Madmen. We are on KLDC. We will be right back and see you in just a moment. Okay, boom.
Boom. Mm-hmm. Nice.
I got
man.
The
There's so many. Yeah, there's so many places we can go with the conversation, man. It's good stuff.
Wherever you'd like. I'm an open book.
All
All right, Kirk, you got a question? You want to lead off the second segment, or?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I saw something brewing over there. You had that look in the eye.
It's diarrhea. Just kidding.
Oh, well,
All right.
all the protein
Here we
shakes
go.
and pre-workout. Watch out.
Mhm.
Those are the ones that get you. Don't skip leg day.
And we're back. We are back. Mad Men of Masculinity, KLDC, 1220 AM in the Mile High City and on the interwebs, everywhere, Facebook, YouTube, every podcast platform. We are not really that hard to find, to be totally honest with you. Madmenradio.com, all those kinds of things, man. Talking to Dan Adler here. Diamond Dan. That was the stage name back in the day, when he used to drop it like it's hot on the stage. Or I'm sorry, maybe that was just me when they used to call me, Sexual Chocolate, Chocolate Thunder. But anyhow,
you're still having that dream,
yeah.
man. You're still having that dream. That never
Yeah, I'm
happened.
having that dream. I haven't given up on it yet, man. One of these days it's gonna be there. We're talking about hunting today. Right in this last segment here, JBK made me sound like I'm a flaming idiot in the city and I don't even know what a deer looks like, man. I will say though that, it's kind of funny because growing up in DC, when you grow up in certain cities, especially, big cities like that with, histories like that. I mean, in DC, for the most part, guns are banned. I mean, you can't just go out and get a gun in DC. It's a little bit more loose in Maryland and Virginia, but DC itself, because of, all the government stuff around there and all that kind of stuff, it's really tight. And then when you throw in just the social aspect of it, back in the day, there was, it's just drug activity, a lot of killings, all that kind of stuff. There's actually a negative connotation around guns, and it wasn't until I moved to Colorado and I've been in Colorado for so long that it was actually like, wait a minute, there are places where probably everywhere you go, somebody's carrying concealed, and it's just not a big deal. And so, when I talk to my family back home, it's just I just see it from different perspectives. But I've never heard, Dan, you mentioned right before at the end of the last break, you mentioned hunters being conservationists. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so in the United States and really all around the world, wildlife doesn't pay for itself. We have built so much in this country and around the world. But if you just go back to our country, all the way back to 1776, the amount of dams, the amount of roads, the amount of, concrete jungles we've built, that has an impact on wildlife. And there's we've known this. Teddy Roosevelt was the first one to identify and call it the North American conservation model. And we didn't have one prior to him. And there's a lot of documented history about that. The buffalo killings, just total massacre. And there's a lot of history in North America about the plenty that when white settlers first got here and there were only Native American tribes, what the plains looked like, what the move out west looked like with Lewis and Clark. You can go out there on history. It's a beautiful, amazing history, except we didn't have a conservation mindset. We had a harvest everything mindset. We had a be prepared for a long winter mindset. And so we did. We started shooting everything that we could. And there's so many paths we could go down with that. But the bottom line is, wildlife needs water, food, space, needs a place where it can safely breed. And as we built up our country to what it is today, 360, 370 or 80 million people, we've made a massive impact on wildlife. And unfortunately, only 11.3 million people last year bought a hunting license out of a population in the 370, 380 million type range. Meaning, and this is important for madmen to understand, especially those that are non-hunters have never done this before, only 11.3 million people contributed to conservation, because unlike other government agencies that get funded by the state or the federal level, hunting and fishing wildlife is only funded by the sales of hunting and fishing licenses, and some through Robert Pittman Act 2 for ammunition. So because wildlife doesn't pay for itself, conservationists do, and we do that through the purchase of hunting and fishing licenses. That's the short answer. But so the conservation model essentially recognizes, if we don't help wildlife, and I say help, some people would say you're not killing, if you're killing it, you're not helping it. But if we don't help wildlife along based on our impact on nature, nature will wipe it out. Nature's very unforgiving. So as beautiful as a sunset is, as beautiful as a moonrise is, as beautiful as, looking at Saturn through a telescope can be, whatever you want to look at in nature, we all know there's a cruel side of it. Google a wolf taking down a moose, look at a hurricane, look at a typhoon, look at an earthquake. Nature has two very violent and very beautiful sides. So what we know now is if we just build cities and we push wildlife, let's say mule deer, and we just keep pushing mule deer out in all directions, and those other cities are also building up in all directions, you could see their range gets compressed. And when that range gets compressed, madman, what happens is there's too many deer in a certain area, and they start getting disease or they start inbreeding. And when that disease or inbreeding or lack of food, starvation happens, you lose animals. And this is how animals go extinct in the modern world. So what hunters do and scientists do with in these game and fish departments, this is science driven, not emotional driven. It's supposed to be science driven. Is these game and fish biologists now, we'll just take the United States, for example, in these 50 states, they sample areas. They sample them by foot, by trail camera, by helicopter, by airplane, by drones, and they know what's in a certain area. And again, we'll just focus on mule deer, and they'll say, hey, in this area, there's this amount of mule deer, and there should only be X amount. And if there's an overage, they have a hunting season. If there's an underage, they don't have a hunting season. So again, non-hunters might think we're just out there shooting everything. No, we only want to hunt areas where there's a population deficit to where it's too high, where we're at risk for disease or die-offs. So that's kind of how the conservation model works. I can go into more detail if you'd like, but wildlife needs that space, shelter, place to breed. They need food and they need water, and then it's got to be clean. So we've had a big impact on that. And so hunting in specific science-based hunting zones and units help keep that balance.
Yeah, and it seems like most folks, because they don't have that experience or they haven't been educated, don't realize that as their land shrinks, as their area shrinks, and then if they do start to starve out, or the disease portion is one of the things I think people don't realize, like, because they're in nature, and our water comes from nature. So, like, if they're dying out from disease, well, where do they end up? On the land, in the water, and that it affects us in the city. So it's one of those things that most people are like, oh, it's cruel, you're just sport hunting. Well, there's a reason behind that. I mean, me personally, I've never done it, but I know that I would always eat what I killed. There would always be some sort of sustenance, kind of that give and take thing. But for a lot of folks, they think, oh, it's just game. They just want the antlers, they just want the head. But they're also serving a purpose. And I think you spoke to that beautifully, that there's a reason. I mean, we keep impacting their territory, so we should do something to help them stay healthy as possible.
Yeah, when you and you'll see this when conservationists, because that's what we are. So if there's a massive winter kill like there was in Wyoming in a certain part of the state a couple of years ago, science rules. So they immediately canceled the hunt there. And who would have wanted to hunt there anyways if the population had been decimated? But it's so much less than people think, especially, again, people new to hunting hearing this for the first time. It's almost not even about the mount or the horns. It really is about the meat. It really is about connecting with family and friends in the outdoor. It really is about putting down the iPhone and getting out of the city and getting to spend some time in the wild. Again, there's no guarantee you're going to be successful. You're going out there for a vacation. It just happens to be a hunting vacation. But what you're really doing is going to see nature. And I got to add, as a veteran, you guys will appreciate this, we're also celebrating freedom. Like, there's over 240 recognized countries in the world, I believe, and 6 of them have hunting for the general public that's not limited to kings or queens or Emiratis or royalty. Another thing to think about too, madmen, is that there are only 29 eligible big game animals that can be hunted throughout North America, specifically North America only, Canada, United States, and Mexico. There are thousands of animals in North America, but only 29 of them population requires science-based regulated conservation hunting. So it's actually a smaller amount of animals than people think relative to what's out there. The other ones are self-regulating just fine, but these ones that don't self-regulate in nature, that's where the hunters come in. And I'm not saying everybody here is going to become a hunter. It's just that what we find statistically is about 10% of North Americans are somewhat against hunting. 10% are very much adamantly for it. And so there's 80% in the middle. 80% of Americans specifically haven't made up their mind on hunting. And so what I'd ask them to entertain as they think about it is from our hunting perspective. As a hunter, I'd say it's okay if you don't ever want to hunt for yourself, but there are ways you can contribute to conservation. You could buy a hunting license and never use it. You're contributing to conservation. You could find an organization like a Safari Club International or Wild Sheep Foundation or Dallas Safari Club, make a donation, and you're helping conservation. You're building bridges. You're building water stations for areas that are having drought. You're contributing to sheep, desert bighorn sheep relocations. Even if you never pick up a rifle or a bow, there's ways to contribute to wildlife. And most Americans would be interested in contributing to wildlife if they just know there was a way to do it.
Yeah, and so you alluded to it, and I learned it the couple times I've gone fishing that fishing don't always involve fish, right? I mean, you can be out there all day and be like, all right, I'm fishing, but I ain't caught nothing yet. And so, to your point, for someone or a group of people, men or women, to go out hunting, it's about the experience. I think. I mean, it seems like what I'm picking up is it's about the experience of getting away, getting unplugged, and the activity, as opposed to I'm just going to go kill something. Like the end game is not necessarily I'm going to go kill something. It's I'm going to have the journey. I'm going to have the experience. I'm going to go through everything to experience the ride, not necessarily the destination.
Yes, sir. I've had extremely religious people go hunting with me, and whether their hunt was successful or not, tell me that's the closest to God I've ever felt. I've had extremely non-religious people go on a hunt with me, whether it was successful or not, say that's one of the most spiritual moments of my life. I've had military guys who were incredible effective at their military jobs and winning the war on terror, but yet they broke down over the successful harvest of an elk or a deer because it meant that much to them and how hard it was and how they had to work for it. Hunters, I think some hunters would even call the process transformational. I mean, there is a beauty and a science to what we do. At the spiritual level, a lot of my Native American friends will tell me something as deep as this, and this is something I just put in my book. It's actually the opener to my book. It talks about the fact that when you harvest an animal, it doesn't matter if it's a deer or an elk or whatever. I'm even getting goosebumps just recalling this conversation. Let's say it's an elk, and let's say I harvest an elk and I get my first elk when I'm 10 years old. And I can't speak for all White River Apache tribal members, but this particular one taught me that that elk, that spirit of that elk, which has gone on to the next life, will be the same body of an elk the next time I'm fortunate enough to get one, and the time after that, and time after that, provided I was respectful to the animal. So for me, respectful means nothing goes to waste. I say a little prayer of gratitude, and I don't have the animals, taking pictures with guts hanging out or the tongue hanging out or inappropriately displayed in the back of my truck. So think about the power of that. I've got somebody saying that if I harvest this elk ethically in a beautiful way and nothing goes to waste, that even if I go elk hunting again 5 years later and I just have to pour my guts out, I'm puking on the side of the mountain, I'm heat stroking for 12 days, and on the 12th day I get another elk, years and miles away from the last one, that Apache warrior spirit would tell me that, Dan, you think you hunted for that elk for 12 days, but God's truth is that elk chose you after 12 days. And that's the same spirit of that bull you killed when you were 10 years old. So there's some very beautiful spiritual results, regardless of outcome, that takes place in the hunting woods for sportsmen and women.
That's pretty deep.
And, yeah, I love that. And speaking of deep, it's time for us to take another deep break. So we'll be right back. We are the Mad Men of Masculinity. That guy's Dan Adler, and we'll see you in just a minute.
Oh,
I like
good
that. Yeah,
stuff.
let's get more of that, more of the nature spiritual side, and tell people what it's all about. And that's something I'll bring up too. I forgot to even mention was that here it might be the same in everywhere, but I know here in Colorado, like because of avalanches and things, if you got to get rescued, if you have a fishing license, that's covered, or a hunting license, it's covered. But if you don't, that bill is yours. You're paying that whole bill. So that's like another perk. Like, get you a license just to support, but also just in case if you're out backcountry and you need medevac, you don't want that bill.
Oh, that's that in Colorado. That's that extra couple bucks that goes towards search and rescue. Is that the tab the thing you're talking about?
Yeah,
I kind of remember something about that. Yeah, I haven't done the Colorado draw. My admin team does that for our business, but I do remember that. There's a couple states that have something similar, and Colorado's one is pretty well respected.
Yeah, it's just funny because you're like, oh yeah, you want the bill for being rescued for the being stuck out backcountry, or spend $23 on a fishing license.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. It's a really nice perk.
Yeah, very big. All right, you
Insurance.
ready?
Here we go. Yeah, here we go. Your boys are back.
That's
The
correct.
boys are back in town. Mad Men of
Back in town.
Masculinity. We are back, man. We're having it, man. This is a deep conversation. I mean, if you, if y'all haven't checked out, if you listen to us, maybe listen to us on the radio or something like that, or just even podcasts, man. If you don't go to Facebook and YouTube and check out the whole conversation, because we have, deep stuff during the breaks here that don't necessarily make it to the air, man. But you need to check out the whole conversation that we have. I would highly recommend checking out what your boys look like. Check out what Diamond Dan looks like by going to YouTube and seeing this whole conversation recorded straight through. Man, it's good stuff. Now, what were you just talking about, Jason? As far as search and rescue or
Well,
something in Colorado?
I want to make sure that I'm not 100%. I'm pretty sure I've heard this several times, but just for everybody in Colorado, because we do a lot of backcountry, do a lot of hiking and stuff. If you have a fishing license or a hunting license, there is a search and rescue addendum or part of that you will actually, if you need to be rescued from an avalanche or something like that, that can be paid for if you have a fishing license or a hunting license. But if you don't, that bill is yours. And I think if you have to get rescued by, search and rescue and a helicopter or something like that, you don't want that bill. That's a bill you definitely don't want. That's like another college fund.
Yeah, you don't want that smoke. You don't want that. I like that. I like the deeper aspect of this whole notion of going hunting in terms of we spend most of us anyway, spend most of our lives, most of our days on screens, right? I mean, two dimensional, and the part that's missing in the two-dimensional screen is depth, right? And so a lot of us don't experience the depth in our lives of just the experience of life. So to be able to unplug, to be able to have an activity, especially one that you involve other people with, something that we can go do together as a group, as a team, as a bonding kind of thing, and to be able to get out into nature, get out into the feminine and do something. And since we're talking, I mean, we're unashamedly masculine here, but to get out into the feminine and do something masculine, to connect with nature, to connect with the ground, the soil, just the trees, the smell, the elements, and all those kinds of things, man, and just go out on the adventure. I mean, that's what the initial settlers of this country. I mean that was the way they lived. That was way different than us who most of our jobs are sitting down somewhere. Most of us by far. So the whole idea of just getting deep and just getting grounded, literally, and connected, man. To me, that has to be a spiritual thing.
It's so spiritual and so beautiful. And, go back to the dawn of time. Go back to the dawn of time. We were hunters and gatherers on the whole planet.
Mhm.
And what's happened, what's changed now? Sure, we've built cities and we're quote unquote civilized or more modern. But, I joke about this sometimes, but I've actually had, doing this 20 years and being in the spotlight with the TV show and a podcast and everything, we're in the spotlight and there's people that just assume we not do this anymore. And there's some of them that are truly, I won't say zero impact on the world, but there's some that really try to be zero impact on the world, whether it's they're vegan or anti-carbon initiatives, whatever it is, and to each their own. It's all beautiful, but we've got to be honest with ourselves. Like, our civilization didn't get this far without hunter-gatherers, and hunter-gatherers still takes place today. It's just less men are choosing to do it, or less men are being exposed to it. But when you think about it, as far as our meat, if you, and I say this to the non-hunters here that are on the fence about whether it's something for them or not, and my position would be this: if you buy chicken, if you buy pork, if you buy fish, if you buy beef at the store, if you buy anything at the store, I mean, that lived. And you may not be the hunter or the farmer or the rancher, but you killed it. Because if you didn't pay for that beef, that pork, that chicken, that turkey, whatever the case might be, the farmer, the rancher would close their doors and go out of business because there was no demand.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah,
you built a
those are
home,
facts.
if you built a home with wood, presumably, you impacted wildlife. If you drove on a road, you've impacted wildlife. If you have a car, you've impacted wildlife. So we all impact wildlife. It's just a very small percentage of us are willing to pay back into it. And again, the hunter-gatherer, I mean, this is not new. It's just less people as a population. Our whole community doesn't have to be hunter-gatherers anymore, because we have farmers, because we have ranchers, because we have slaughterhouses. We've got other ways to procure food now on a large scale. But ultimately, you either are a hunter-gatherer or you pay somebody else to do your killing. it's not a judgment against you, but it is a fact. If you're paying for it, it's paid killing. And what you have a choice to do as a consumer, say, hey, I might give this hunting thing a try. What everybody knows, there's no disagreement about, is that if you harvest venison, it is dramatically healthier for you than any beef, pork, chicken, turkey you could buy at a store, because it's free range, farm, not raised in behind a fence or in a pen and loaded with antibiotics or anything else you don't want in your body. So if you want to try that free range venison, really get back to nature, this is a great way to do it.
Yeah, I think that's something that people have lost touch with, and they don't realize, and they get so used to and entitled and spoiled by supermarkets and things just being provided for them, and not having the experience of what it's like to actually kill that animal and process it yourself and see what all goes into it. And then, to your point, without all the hormones, without all the stuff, I mean, all the stuff they put into chicken, like I love chicken, we eat lots of chicken, but you see some of these chicken legs, they look like turkey legs because they put all this extra stuff in it. They put all these fillers and stuff in it. But if you killed the chicken yourself, if you were like farming or had your little farm or your chicken coop and your little garden out back, you would understand what went into that and the process, and you'd probably be a lot healthier for it. And it's just something we've gotten away from. We're all kind of on the government tit, as it were. Just it's all provided for us, so we don't have to learn anything. But I think there's something, even to your point before about the spiritual aspect of it. There's actually some folks from the University of Colorado in Boulder that wrote a book called The 3-Day Effect. Get out in nature for 3 days without any electronics. And I'm sure when you take your guys out, they're out there for longer than 3 days or maybe more, but just 3 days will reset your entire biorhythms, will reset your entire body, will probably help you cure a lot of depression and other issues that you use to cope with living in the city and not being out in nature. So, I mean, these are the things that people just don't realize, like, oh, hunting, it's bad. But when I've seen it even in a couple movies now where they talk about, the vegans and all the anti-hunter people are like, oh, well, we'll just farm, we'll just grow stuff. It's like, well, you would rather kill thousands of little moles and mice and all the critters that live in the ground versus one elk or deer that could feed you for the winter. It's like,
well, and that elk or deer was living on that farm before you cut all the things down to make it a farm. And I'll add to that, Jason, just real quick. We were in Alaska last summer. Alaska in the summer is an amazing place to go fishing. And, it's really easy to bring meat and fish home from Alaska. All the airlines expect people to have it. And so we were in the parking lot of the fish processing center this past summer, picking up salmon and halibut. And the vehicle next to us was getting their deliveries. There's a whole family of 5, wife, husband, and 3 kids. And when their fish got delivered, the guy opened up the freezer to put in their coolers, and you could hear the mom. I don't know who she was, but she just, oh my God. And so I was worried at first something happened. And I looked over to see her just in time to see her pick up a fillet. And she goes, it's so red. The salmon is so red. It's so beautiful. And she turns to her husband. She's like, this isn't what salmon looks like at Costco. This is unbelievable. Like, there was like no joke, like a moment for her, an epiphany, like, wow. So fish in nature doesn't look like the Costco salmon in the cellophane. Like, no, it will blow your mind. The way God created salmon is totally different than how scientists created farm salmon. So it is to your point, especially about the chicken too, right? It is a totally different experience. It's a much better taste in most cases too, which a lot of people are surprised to hear, because they would think these additives to your meat is for taste. It's not. It's for size and it's for fat. It's for quantity to sell you more by the pound.
This is, and I don't know how far we'll get into this for the next break, but I wonder also if again, not only do we as adults spend a whole lot of time on screens, but so do our kids, right? And a lot of times our kids, they grew up on the video games and social media and all that kind of stuff, but especially the video games where, you're playing whatever it is, Call of Duty or some other kind of game where, where people or things die and you just hit start over again. And, and I guess what I'm getting at is the value of life, or just the notion of life. And I almost wonder if it could be a growing learning experience for a young man, especially a bonding experience with, a father and a son, but a young man to see and to experience the fact that if you have what I'm going to call a successful hunt, meaning there was something you were actually able to get or to kill, to be able to see and experience the preciousness of life and to see that beyond just an animal, that you went hunting for, but just, just life in general. And maybe our streets are kind of the way they are sometimes. And maybe it's that way in the city so much because there's no value for just life itself. And you can't just hit the reset button and start over again and all that.
The weight, whether it's an adult or especially Kirk, a child, of them harvesting their first animal is unbelievable. They're happy, they're proud, but it's very quickly obvious to them that they killed something. There is no reset button, and it is powerful. I will tell you a couple things. Number one, father-son hunts are the coolest hunts we get to guide at Diamond Outfitters and Zero Outfitter Fees because the bonding and the connection. And the other thing, to your point, and this is really important to understand, is I've done this for almost 20 years, 30 years plus, 40 years plus of actual hunting, 20 years of officially guiding as a company, 30 years of helping people. And I have never, and I would be totally transparent if this has been the case, I have never taken a father-son hunting where the son did not become a hunter themselves. So we're hundreds for hundreds out of hundreds and hundreds. Like it's not 99%, 100% of the young men I've introduced to hunting with their father still hunt to this day, 100%. So there's your numbers.
Wow.
It's a big deal.
That'd be pretty deep. Like I said, and I could imagine for father and son to be able to have that experience with all of the elements involved, and just the whole process, and just being together and doing it shoulder to shoulder, side by side, whether you came home with something or not, just the experience of it. And it's that hunt that stimulates the dopamine in our brain. I mean, we look for artificial ways to stimulate dopamine in our culture because we don't get it naturally in a whole lot of ways. And so, man, I could imagine that being a powerful experience between a father and a son.
The conversations around the campfire at night, the conversations around a kill, the conversations while, on a high ridge using high quality binoculars, just glassing for hours on end, the bonding and the conversations they have. Sometimes you hear things that a parent's hearing for the first time in their life from their son. And so you talk about how much does it cost to go hunting? Well, how much would you pay to have your son tell you something he was too shy to tell you for the last 5, 10, 15 years going into adulthood? I mean, what value do you put on that? I have an 18-year-old, and when he turned 10, he was able to legally start hunting in Arizona. And I've almost essentially, not completely, but almost essentially put all my hunting on hold during that time. And my 16-year-old daughter likes to fish now and then. Actually, she's like you, Kirk. She prefers catching, but she'll go fishing. But she prefers catching. And but those times in the outdoors, I mean, you can't see it here in my office, but there's a picture of rainbow trout with my son and my daughter. And 12, 13 years ago, and they were just little pups, and the smiles on their faces. I didn't have to tell them to smile. Sometimes for family pictures, we got to say, everybody smile. But those pictures around the campfire with your deer, with your elk, with your rainbow trout, your tuna, they naturally smile. It's a dopamine. It's all that. It's gratitude. So it's really a blessing overall.
Well, we're grateful we have you, and we have to do our gratitude thing as well. So we'll take our last and final break for this show. So we are the Mad Men. That's Dan Adler, and we'll be right back. Boom.
Man, I could totally see that being a great. Yeah. That'd be a great experience, man, for father and son.
I mean, I'm not even gonna put it on the rest of the show, but I remember being how kind of like butthurt I was because the way I grew up with my dad being the firstborn, and we were overseas a lot, and they were in the army and just always on the go, TDY and everything else. And then his third wife, his second adopted child, Parker, like he actually moved back to his hometown in Central Texas, where deer walk around like rabbits. They're just freaking everywhere, and so of course they hunt. And so just that bonding thing I saw, and I was just like, oh, like, I didn't get that. I get that. I didn't get that experience, but it's just one of those things. You see it and you get envious. You're like, oh, I wish I had that.
Hey, can we start off this last segment talking about your outfit then?
Absolutely. Love that.
All right. We'll not save that to the very last 20 seconds. Well, I want to.
Yeah, no, we need to promote this.
Yeah, I want to get into kind of what you do and how you do it and all that kind of stuff. So let's start off with that. All right, here we go. Your boys are back. We talking
In
about
the
hunting
house.
today on Mad Men of Masculinity, man. We've never had this conversation. We talked about a lot of stuff, man, over the
It's new
however
for
many
us.
years. This is totally new ground, man. We've never done this, man. Great conversation, Dan Adler, Diamond Dan. You said you're out of Arizona. Let's talk about your. First of all, before we go any further, so that folks don't have to wait another 11 minutes to find out, how can folks get a hold of you? Like, what's a good way to find you?
Absolutely. So our social channel on Facebook and Instagram is Diamond Outfitters /Zero Outfitter Fees. Our website is www.diamondoutfitters.com. And then our hunting club, which is what most madmen will be probably the most interested in. And we can come up with a madmen cool promo offer today. That's our hunting club, which is really cool. It's an all-inclusive group. It's kind of my inner circle. So these are people that either like me, know me, trust me, want to do business with me, or want to come to like me, know me, trust me, want to do business with me. We have a really cool hunting club. So zerooutfitterfees.com or diamondoutfitters.com. And then on your Facebook and your Instagram and someday TikTok. And we also have a TV show, Diamond Outfitters Television on YouTube. That's also Diamond Outfitters, Zero Outfitter Fees on YouTube. And a lot of different ways to track us down. Info@diamondoutfitters.com. INFO is my email, info@diamondoutfitters.com. And be glad to entertain any madmen questions for sure. Bring them out on a Western big game hunt, change their lives.
And I can already tell, I can see him doing it. He's typing all that in the comments.
Beautiful.
Can
Thanks,
already
Jason.
tell that's what he's doing. He's putting all that in the comments. Yeah, that is. And so you started
It's the
off, I
easiest
mean,
one.
in the very beginning, you talked a little bit about kind of how you all work in the process. But just really quick, do people have to come to you in Arizona? Do they meet you somewhere in another state, or like where do you how do you physically connect with somebody for to go out on a hunt with you?
Yeah, so somebody decides they either want to join our hunting club or just literally buy a hunt. The same way, Kirk and Jason, you'd buy a vacation. So you decide you want to go on a hunt, then we have a conversation the same as you want to go on vacation. What are your dates? What do you want to do while you're there? Right? Sounds familiar to a vacation? That's because this is a hunting vacation. We do Arizona, which is where I'm from. We do New Mexico, Utah, Nevada, Wyoming to a lesser extent, and even into Sonora, Mexico with our outfitter partners. So our reach includes 50 states because outside of the states I personally guide in, I have guides in the other 45 states that we do business with as well. So we're really kind of a one-stop shop. We're the largest veteran-owned guide service in North America. And so we are a one-stop shop. You can get all your gear from us. You can do all your planning and logistics from us and book your hunts. So we do a monthly podcast. We do a quarterly live Zoom town hall where I'm in touch with everybody. So a lot of ways to learn about what we're doing, even if you don't pay us a dime. If you're on our email list, you get my weekly newsletter, my podcast, and my live Zoom town hall meeting. So you don't have to pay a dime just to learn more. To your point, when someone buys their hunting vacation, let's say it's going to be in Arizona, they're either going to fly to Arizona and they'll probably end up renting a car, and then they'll meet us in a town nearby the camp. And then once we're in that town, we just drive into that camp together. Once we're in that camp, we use our vehicles, whether it's a four-wheel drive truck or a side-by-side, or some hunts are even on horses and mules. Not a lot, but some are on horses and mules for those that want that type of a Western adventure. A true romantic Western big game hunting camp is what we offer in our camps. And they're very much what madmen would appreciate. It's that traditional big cowboy style wall tent with carpet inside and a wood burning stove. And there's a separate bathroom and a cook shack, and all the amenities are there. And we have amazing cowboy cooks that are in all of our camps. So yeah, once we know what hunting vacation you want, we pick a meeting location, take you right into camp, and then you're literally on vacation from there. It's a learning vacation. You get to decide how much or how little you want to participate because you're on vacation. But I have some clients, Kirk, who they can't stand the idea of just watching the guide cut wood or cook or put out food or carrying out an animal. Most of our clients, most madmen too, will want to actively participate, and most do. So it's in that sense, it's somewhat of a working vacation, but it can also be just kick back and watch and learn too. And again, it doesn't matter your experience level. We welcome everybody because at the end of the day, we're just trying to show you a great experience. Making dreams come true is what we do. And that's what we want to do. And, if you look at our Google reviews, if you look at our website with the references, I'm just so blessed. I tell people I can't take credit for any of that, but we're so blessed at Diamond Outfitters and Zero Outfitter Fees that our clients are having these life-altering experiences. And it makes me just motivated to keep doing it for them.
Well, one question I'm sure is popping in people's minds because it popped into mine, but I think it's probably good for you to address a little bit is what do they get to take with them? I mean, not only do they come on this hunting vacation, they get to have the experience in nature, have that spiritual experience. But what do they take home with them?
So they get all their meat, they get their cape, they get their antlers, and then just a lifetime of memories. Most hunters are surprised when I send them equipment list of what they need to bring. It's a lot less than most families take on their average Disney vacation. So they're like, are you sure I'm not forgetting something? I feel like my truck's underpacked. And it's like, well, this is a fully outfitted hunting vacation. So we've got your lodging, we've got your scouting for your hunt, we've got your vehicle once you get to camp. Like, you don't need to bring a lot, but you do need to bring a good attitude. You do need to bring some heart and some hustle. You do need to bring an appreciation for nature and freedom. You need to bring a respect for wildlife and God's creation. And you need to understand that we're there to make your dreams come true, and that you've got a role in that mentally, physically. You've got to be in shape. You've got to be proficient with your rifle or bow if you'd like to see success. Buying a hunting vacation doesn't mean you're getting an animal. I like to steal Patton's quote. This is my take on it. Whether you kill an animal or not is between you and God. My job is just to arrange the meeting. So you've got to do your part. So be mentally and physically prepared, and prepare with your equipment, because we're certainly going to do our part. We're full time. This is what we do. Just like you're good at your job because you do it 40 to 100 hours a week, we do ours 110 hours a week. So we're really good at it, 3 decades plus, and you're going to be catered to, but you're going to earn it. And most likely it's going to be the most beautiful exhaustion you've ever experienced when you go home. But you will crave, I promise you will crave to do it again. 80% of our clients come back for a second or third hunt. Dozens of clients do a hunt with us every single year. And through our Hunting Club Zero outfitter fees, there's no limit to the amount of people can go on draw hunts, as long as we're successfully able to get them drawn. So come mentally and physically fit, be prepared to put in the hours, and let's let the cards shake out the way they may.
So,
now, how's all that getting home?
Because it's not glamping.
It's not glamping.
So how's all that getting back to my house? Because that trophy you got on the wall right there ain't fitting in the overhead on the airplane. How's all that you named getting back to my house?
Yeah, great question. So what a lot of our clients do, there are some smaller animals that you might not believe this, but some of your deer and your antelope and species like that, you can actually take in the overhead. We could save that conversation, but it's possible. But what happens with your big stuff, you get a big bull elk like that, or an oryx or gemsbuck, something like that. It's a process. So probably 75% of our clients drive, even if they're coming from as far as Florida or Maine. And what they'll do is they'll put multiple chest freezers in their back of their truck. There's a combination of either ice or dry ice you can use. And depending on your route of travel, we can teach you how to change the ice out so that it's always fresh, so that your meat stays good. And then your antlers can obviously go in your pickup truck, as well as the cape can go in the freezer. Now on the meat side, same thing, you've got these big coolers. But if you're flying, right, airlines will allow up to 50 pounds per cooler, but it's going to be at whatever rate you're paying with the airlines for excess baggage. So some of you guys fly on points and you don't have to pay for baggage. Some of you with these airlines are looking at several $100s in baggage fees. Your first 2 bags with Southwest, I think they market, are still free. So a lot of that depends. Another cool thing for Mad Men to know is that if they come out and they do get an elk, and it's 1,000-pound animal at its biggest, that 1,000, 1,100 pounds at its biggest, 700 or 800 usually at its smallest, the meat yield on that's about a third. So you're gonna have 300, 400 pounds of meat from a big bull. That's deboned actual meat. Wow. So if that's not something you're bringing home, or you're flying and your freezer's full, or you're just not interested in that much, please know at Diamond Outfitters and Zero Outfitter Fees, nothing's going to waste, because one of 2 things will happen. Our young guides will take it to feed their families and nourish their bodies, or there's Arizona Hunters for the Homeless, where every scrap of excess meat will always go. So in the case of an antelope, a deer, some of these smaller game animals, pretty easy to transport. Your bigger bodied animals, your elk, your oryx, your bison, we do have to get a little bit more creative. Lastly on that, there are a couple clients who are so dedicated to this that instead of just bringing your traditional cooler, they'll actually put a small chest freezer in their trucks and run it on a generator the whole drive home. Or some of these new trucks, just in the last few years, actually have a built-in onboard generator you can plug into. So that's the way to get your meat, your antlers, and your capes home the most efficient way, because nothing is going to waste. Go back to my warrior St. Carlos Apache friend, who taught me very well, you always respect what you harvest, and it'll come back to you tenfold. So nothing's going to waste.
So you got group discounts. So like if we want to bring like the whole like Denver Mad Men, B-Men Mafia down there for a weekend or a week, like how we work that out? What you got for us?
Well, first of all, I would totally do that. I would recommend coming up with your own madmen. I would do the first one I would do probably that comes to mind is an Arizona black bear hunt, because it's the combination of getting to see the most wildlife in a beautiful, beautiful canyon, spot and stock, where you're really going to earn it, but you're also going to see a lot of bears. But if you come at the right time of year, you might hear elk bugling and things like that too. Most clients come to us for elk, Coues white-tailed deer, mule deer, oryx, antelope, but we have a lot more than that in our inventory. My hunt club zero outfitter fees is the coolest thing, and I don't want to turn this into an infomercial, but just real quick, what it does is, and you guys may not know this, but actually, if you don't mind, I'll ask you, what would you guess a mule deer hunt cost in the Western United States, a fully guided hunting vacation? And secondly, what would you guys both guess an elk hunt cost as a fully guided hunting vacation these days? Just real quick, if you don't mind.
I would think at least
$5,000.
Yeah.
$5,000.
I don't.
So my least expensive deer hunts run about 6,000 to 8,000. So good job.
Mhm.
My least expensive elk hunts start at 7,000, but madmen, they go over $25,000. So because over the last 20 years, I watched prices go so high, I created a hunt club 5 years ago called Zero Outfitter Fees. And the very short version of it is it's $997 a year. So call it $1,000. On top of that $1,000, we use your credit card to purchase your state hunting licenses, big game tag fees, and applications. But any hunt we get, any hunt, not just deer and elk, but 12 other species, 14 total, anything we can get you drawn for, and they're hard draws, I want to be honest, but anything we get you drawn for, we guide you for free. So if you're on a $13,000 elk hunt and you're a club member, it's free. If you're on a $15,000 moose hunt, your hunt is free. So that's kind of how our Zero Outfitter Fees hunt clubs works. And that's going to be the best fit for most madmen, in my opinion. But there's also the capability just to reach out and buy a hunt. But a really cool first Madmen radio hunt would be a bear hunt in Arizona in either August, October, or November, in my opinion, because we could just book a whole day in camp with you guys and have your flag there and everything.
Wow.
Nice.
All right, we got some planning to do. We got some fundraising to do.
It's a more entry level hunt at about $5,000. That's another reason why I was shouting that out to your guys.
Oh no, I love that. I think we're probably gonna have to have you back on, Dan, because this is a conversation that needs to be had more than once, and people need to know that hunting is not just about killing animals. There's so much more to it, and it's something I think, with the respect aspect, the spirituality aspect, the nature aspect, I think we all need to do it. And like to Kirk's point, I mean, I think this is a father and son thing that needs to happen more regularly and be put as a priority.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it could totally be a rite of passage kind of thing, I think, for father and son to experience that together, man. That is awesome.
1,000%.
Well, I can't believe the time is already up. We've only had an hour with you. It's gone by so fast, but we're definitely going to call you back, have you back on. But thank you so much. Make sure one last time, give them your website, your email, your phone number, whatever you want to give them, so they know as we head on out the door.
Yeah, diamondoutfitters.com is the website. ZeroOutfitterFees.com is the membership. Email info at diamondoutfitters.com. And shout out to all the MedMet. Appreciate your time today and look forward to spending more time with you on another show down the road.
We thank you so much. Thank you for coming in from Arizona. And until next time, we are the Madmen. That's Dan Adler, and we are out.